you run a business on yourself and you have no JV partners, you have no any partners who you work with, then all the liability suddenly on your shoulders. So all the council tax, all the rent, if you have 30 properties, let's say, or 50 or 100.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Istvan Vigh, and I'm here with Peter Juhasz on our weekly chat, which we call Cash Flow with Property. So we get together on a weekly basis on Tuesdays at 7:30, talk about all things property, and the idea really is to add value as much as possible. So we pick different topics each week, and we try to explore them, help people in their property journeys, and just share our experiences as much as we can. So whether you are new to property or you're more experienced, I'm sure there's something here for you every week. So glad to have you tonight. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to stick it into the comments below, and we'll be able to display it on the screen and hopefully be able to answer. So we like to keep it as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to join in on the comments, and yeah, we'd like to sort of help along the discussion. So as I mentioned, we do different topics each week. Sometimes we have special guests. Today we are going to talk about the impacts of COVID on the property market, and basically all we do today is we talk about our experiences over the last few months, what we've seen, what we've experienced, and also what we think is going to happen based on what we're seeing in the market currently. So yeah, so there's a few things, like I say, there's 3 sort of elements we're going to do. We'll break the session up into 3 bits. So we go through the sort of during lockdown and then the post-lockdown, and then what we think is going to happen in the future. So yeah, so thank you for joining us. Hi, Peter. Welcome, everybody. And
Hi everyone. I'm Peter here. Thanks for everybody to join in, or even now or later. It's both okay. Thank you for joining and always contribute sometimes with messages and the questions and all this stuff. We really appreciate if you asking questions or if we can help it, because that is all about. So yes, Istvan, as rightly mentioned, we're going to talk about the effect of the COVID-19 on the current property market. And my first question, just straight in the middle. So Istvan, what was the immediate effect of the lockdown during the lockdown in HMOs, the HMO market?
Yeah, so my business, so our business is predominantly HMOs. So we were running the thick of it basically from that perspective. So I guess the first impact really was that a lot of our tenants have left, and now this was due to many things. So our tenants come from different walks of life. So some have come from abroad, and of course, being young professionals in the early 20s, the families just basically said, look, we don't know what's going to happen. You're abroad in a different country. Come back home, be safe, be with us. So they've left. Some were on their placement years. So, university students, again, in the early 20s, from different parts of the UK. And of course, similar thing happened, families essentially just called them home. So, there's nothing we can do about it really. And of course, at that point, we're talking early April, nobody really knew what was going to happen. So the best thing for everyone's sake, really, from a safety perspective, was just to go, look, you have to go contractually. We didn't want to hold anyone back, and to be fair, we didn't have to, because most people's fixed term contracts are up around that time. So it almost was an easy decision, and we kind of understood we just had to, if I was in their position and I had kids at that age, I would have done the same. I would have just asked them to come home. So we also had people who have lost their jobs or were put on in a very sort of, not quite a furlough, but put in a very difficult position. This was just before the furlough scheme was announced, and they couldn't pay their rents. So again, that impacted our cash flow, of course. And there were the others who temporarily lost their jobs. Didn't know exactly what was going to happen. So eventually they got put on a furlough, so that sort of changed things. So there was a lot of things that we had to sort of contend with very early on. And of course, having managed, quite a few houses, there were quite a few empty rooms for the first little while. So I think at one point we were down to something like 60% occupancy, and that's obviously not a place that anybody wants to be. So we were trying to manage through that. So I guess the question is, what did we do all about this? Well, we made sure that the first thing was we made sure that our tenants were safe. So we followed all the guidelines that were given. Obviously, there were lots of different guidelines. So we were having multiple meetings in every given week just to make sure that we are up to speed in terms of what's the latest advice from the government. Do you self-isolate? Do you social distance? Do you do this, that, the other? I mean, the news that was coming out was just confusing, not just for us, but everybody. So managing through that was not the easiest thing, but we always put the tenant safety first, basically, and that was number one priority. So we had tenants who moved out, but obviously there were some tenants who needed a new place. Now, we were only taking on people who either were about to be homeless or were homeless for whatever the circumstances. So again, we followed the guidelines as much as possible. Any new tenant we put into the houses, they were self-isolating for at least 7 days. I think the numbers were changing between 7 and 14 days. So again, we were trying to follow the guidelines. So there's loads of things we had to follow. So, but from a business point of view, we were hit because obviously the occupancy levels were not there. But we still ended up doing more in terms of marketing at the time because we felt that was probably the right thing to do. So, I guess the obvious thing to do in this scenario is what most people think is like, okay, well, my revenues drop, so I need to drop the costs out of the business as well, just to make sure that I'm saving on the bottom line. But we were actually doing somewhat the opposite. We were actually spending on the marketing a little bit more, making sure our presence was bigger than before, making sure that we are, communicating what we do really well to the market, just to make sure that when we come out of this, because it was obvious, well, to me, it was obvious that we will come out of this because this can't go on forever. And then we're in a better position. So people are more aware of who we are, what we do really well. And it worked because essentially getting towards, well, even during lockdown, we were getting inquiries, but we were very careful about who we take on because, like I said, we were following the guidelines. And once lockdown eased, we were basically back to full occupancy within a couple of weeks. And that's not changed ever since. So clearly all our efforts have paid off. So that was good to see. And we're in a position now where we actually need more houses. So, and it's one of those positions, all of a sudden you swing from one to the other side really, really quickly. Now it's equally frustrating because you'd like to provide more of the same service to people, but it's difficult because it's very difficult to get more houses, and I'll talk about it a little bit later why that actually is. So that's really kind of in a quick sort of nutshell from an HMO perspective of what I've seen and what we've experienced. How about you, Peter? So I know you've got obviously quite a lot of essays. And did you have a different experience? Was it different to you? Were you swamped with inquiries? People want to stay at your place, or quite the opposite?
It was a horrible experience, especially at the first few days. Suddenly, all the bookings was being cancelled, and obviously nobody seen before anything like that. So you didn't even have a chance to talk maybe more experienced people, or anybody who would give you any advice, because nobody really knew what's going to happen. When all the bookings cancelled, regardless what's your cancellation policy with Airbnb or Booking.com, and that's really hit the market and hit the people, all the SA sector, SA operators. So everybody felt, and it wasn't a good experience. Everybody thought it's like an end of the world, and because obviously if one day within 2-3 days all your bookings is finished, so obviously you don't know what to do. There is no income. You're gonna need to pay the rent if it's a rent. You're gonna need to pay your bills and all this stuff, and you don't even know whether it's going to be any new bookings at all in the next couple of weeks or even month. So what we did is actually the first and the main thing, not just in service accommodation or property, but in any business, do not panic. Because if you panic, then you're not going to be able to make the right decisions. So I just told my team, just calm down and just let's have a look, because don't forget, regardless how bad the situation is, there is always a way around. There is no such a thing. The market is dead. All I see every day on all over the social media is the essay is dead, the market is dead, Airbnb is dead, Booking.com is dead. But obviously, you know, it's not dead. It's just different. It just changed, because once someone is finished, there is always the demand for something else. You just need to find it, and that's the thing you won't able to find if you make your decisions in not that cold manners. I mean, if you panic too much, you won't able to able to make the right decisions, and you won't even able to see the solution, even if it's in front of you. So what you did, Istvan, is just same like we did. Most of the people straight away cutting costs down, lay off staff and all this stuff. Instead, I hired more staff, marketing stuff and admin stuff as well, and also increased our budget, and even started to do the paid marketing as well, which I never done before. I don't even know why, to be honest. If you ask me, it's sometimes you do things when you have to do it, but to be honest, I should have done before, because this is, even now we have great bookings from Airbnb or Booking.com, but the marketing, the flyering, the paid ads, increasing social media presence, sometimes promotions, and all this stuff, it works. And if you have a good website, which we did have that time, that was a good thing, because if I didn't have a website, it would have taken too long time until I set up the website and start. So we already had a website, and we just started to do running ads, paid ads, and we just started to use more social media, posting more, not 1 time per day, but 2 times. We also started to share these posts within Facebook groups, local Facebook groups. We reached out for local companies, obviously, because this was an issue with the virus. Who's going to be the demand for? What's going to be the demand for? NHS staff, key workers, people who want to self-isolate. So we realized this very, very quick, maybe the next 3rd day. So, and straight away we started to marketing onto those sector. And obviously we didn't know what's going to happen, but we did our best. So, and we had a lot of inquiries, and we changed. Of course, we changed not just the whole cleaning process. So we changed our listings. We put the COVID-19 clauses on the listings as well, and terms and conditions as well. And we not just put the clause, but we also did it. So we told the cleaners we paid a bit more extra. So they made sure the apartment is cleaned and disinfectant. And we also put this on the listings as well, which helped. We changed the bookings from 2-3 nights to 7 nights as a minimum, and we started to offer huge percent, 30-40% for a week, sometimes 50% for a month. So we start to offer a huge discounts for NHS staff, for key workers, and for people who want to self-isolate. So in the same time, we help people, but we also made sure we have enough income to pay our landlords or investors, and the bills and all this stuff. And in the same time, we also managed to negotiate with our landlords and agents. So all of them was really understand the situation, and they accepted the half rent for 3 months, and we paid back. We're now paying back in the next 12 months, so the other half, which is only 50, 60, 70, 80 quid per month extra. But on that time, it helped as well to not using too much cash flow and to keep the cash flow going on. So we never had an issue to pay anybody. We never had an issue to pay rent or we paid any bills. We literally literally survived quite well compared to other people. I heard stories, and we also realized the business model. It all comes down to your business model as well. So we really lucky. We working with a group of investors as well. So if you run a business alone yourself, and you have no JV partners, you have no any partners who you work with, then all the liability suddenly on your shoulders. So all the council tax, all the rents. If you have 30 properties, let's say, or 50 or 100, everything is on you. But if you're working with other people, you can split liability just like you split the profit when things going well. And this is the only way forward. Thanks to Gator business model, we mix the service accommodation, rent to service accommodation with deal packaging, and that's how we had a lot of joint venture partnerships and investors working behalf of them, and so we quite good did well during this period. And Istvan, what other impact you experienced during this time, or what other impact was after the lockdown was seized?
So during the lockdown, actually, I think it's one thing I forgot to mention is that we've actually done lots of things, because, it's really interesting how the UK weather was actually during the lockdown, right? So we had probably one of the best spring weather that we've had in a long, long time, right? Yeah. So obviously everybody's stuck at home, a lot of people working from home. So we've actually done a lot of things to make sure that the tenants were, comfortable at home. So in some cases where there wasn't any, so we bought them outdoor furniture and a barbecue. So, in the nice hot evenings, they could go out and actually enjoy a barbecue together as much as possible, obviously. And those sort of things have brought us a lot of goodwill with our tenants. And I think we've built better relationships with them as well as a result. So that was good. Obviously, it cost us a little bit of money, but I think if you're spending a little bit of money, but then you end up with a more loyal customer base, then it's worth it. So if those people don't leave in 6 months, but they stay until a year or even longer, then that's much better. So that's one of those things we end up doing during the lockdown. But what we've sort of seen post lockdown is what was your question was. So very different patterns starting to emerge in the property market in general from what I've seen. So I think I've mentioned earlier in terms of how we now in a position that we need more properties, but we're actually struggling to get more because all of a sudden this demand that's been artificially held back for 3 months of lockdown, all of a sudden now that's obviously there's got to go somewhere, So all of a sudden, all those people who couldn't buy a house, who couldn't move out of a house, or got to be in a position where they were locked in the same house for 3 months with people that perhaps they weren't really getting on that well in the first place. There's been a few breakups, I'm sure. Quite a few divorces happened over that time, so that's probably pushed a few people over the edge. Rightly or wrongly, but it just happens anyway. So what we are now seeing, we're starting to see what was lockdown sort of ended around June, I think, is all the pent-up demand is starting to get released into the market. So now people are, going out there and basically buying properties left, right, and centre. So it's become very much of a seller's market. And also from a rental property point of view, it's just a bit nuts out there, to be honest. So if you go and try to view a rental property at the moment, not everywhere, of course, but the area that I'm operating in, I seem to have 3 or 4 people in front of me when I try to call an agent in terms of trying to get a viewing. So it's a bit frustrating, if I'm honest. I've even had a conversation with one of the agents that I deal with on a regular basis, and he said, look, I've had people putting down deposits on houses that they haven't even seen. They've just seen the pictures online. So it's very interesting. To be honest, not something I've experienced for a long time. I remember when we were in New Zealand, in Auckland, there was a period of about 2 years when we were renting at the time. So me and my wife went to view a property, and there was about 20 people doing the viewing. And you're just like, oh my God, how are we going to get this property? And then we just did, struck up a conversation with the landlord, and we ended up getting it. But it's one of those. It kind of feels like that sort of situation where people are just just going crazy about property. So same on a purchase or selling and purchasing side. We're certainly seeing people putting in at asking price or sometimes even over asking price offers on houses. So again, it's not something we've seen in a while. So I guess in the last couple of years, because of Brexit, things have been a bit sort of up and down, a bit volatile, depending on where you are, of course. But now it seems like it's just everything going great guns, and all sorts of different offers and going in. So that's really what I've seen in general about the property market, how it's moved. How's it been for you? Have you seen anything different from an SA point of view? Is it similar or different?
As soon as the lockdown was seized, obviously we've been fully booked during the lockdown, just because the step we've taken, as I mentioned before. But after the lockdown, obviously we were able to increase the booking slightly every month, and we still somehow we did really well with our strategy. And we still more focus on longer bookings, 7, 14 days, 1 month, and still getting good bookings as well. Of course, obviously with in some cases we going back for 2-3 nights, just like before. But most of the time we only taking the longest, and we give discounts. It still works, and the market is still not there, but it's better every month. And we even now, last night 4-5 good bookings came in. It's almost like before. So we receiving more and more good bookings. And thanks to our new team, our build of social media, we keep carrying on. We even just now we changed a few things and the new brand and all this stuff. So we're gonna start even more stronger marketing, because one of the biggest experience and the learning curve was for me is why I haven't done this before. So why I just was always just rely on the OTAs, which is good because it's easy. You don't need to spend, you don't need to plan. You just put the listings rightly, and of course you need to change things and checking the price for other people, how they operate close to you. But apart from that, there is no so big effort when you put in a good marketing, direct marketing, and your website and promote on all over. Every social media platforms is different, so you're gonna need to do your marketing accordingly. Paid ads is a different kind of animal as well, so you're gonna really need to know what you do and how you set up your campaigns. But eventually that was the biggest learning curve we had to buy. We didn't do it before, and we're still doing it. And now the two things, the OTAs and our marketing is just adding up each other. So it's more we increasing our bookings just more and more. And of course, I'm also learning from other people, more experienced people, and my team as well, which we're gonna get there at the end of the session. So and because you always need to learn people who been in an industry more than you and has more knowledge than you, because once you say I know everything, I'm the best, then you lost already. So and some of the people, some of us, sometimes maybe myself as well, we tend to think we know everything better than everybody else, but it's not the case. And it's always good to have people around you and learning from them, speaking to them, listening more than speaking, and it's always a good thing.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. It's that's why we have loads of knowledgeable people around us to ask them the right questions and learn from them. I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where we know everything. Like you say, if we think we do, I think we are definitely. That's when we start going backwards. So I don't want to do that. So, and I enjoy learning. So that's one of the other things as well. So
yeah, as people used to say, if you don't know answer the question, at least you need to know who to ask. So
Absolutely.
So you need to know who to ask the question if you don't know the answer, and then you're gonna get your answer eventually, because it's very important. And yeah, that's one of the things we had a advantage, myself and you, I'm sure yourself as well. We been in the business for a while, and we also have quite a good network, which to be honest we build up to go to networking events or just doing the business, meeting with people on social media as well. So I had a lot of people who I can go and ask anything if I want. And this is very important to not just everything is coming from your head, because it's not gonna go nowhere, never. So that's why it's good to have people around you and hear everybody out. So not just it mustn't be just my decision. It has to be. I has to consult with other people around me, and even not just my direct team, but other people as well. So you can make the decision then based on the fact and based on the info you have.
Yeah, agreed. There's plenty of people to draw on, which is good. I think it's I think it's well said, Peter. Right. So I think that's pretty much our experience on the post-lockdown thing. So I'm going to share you my view on what's happening going forward a little bit. And I think that's a bit tricky, obviously, because I don't have a crystal ball. The only thing I can say is what I think is happening, well, what I can see in the market right now, and potentially what that means for the property market. So obviously we are in very interesting times right now. So we have just seen, from an overall economy point of view, one of the biggest contractions the UK economy has ever seen. Well, I think it is the biggest on record. So the second quarter of this year, which is from April to June, the GDP of the country has gone backwards by 20%. So that's a huge number. But of course, it's not a massive surprise, because the economy was practically shut down. So with everyone being home, obviously the spending wasn't happening. People not attending, visiting shops, not purchasing as much. So it's not a huge surprise. On the top of that, the first quarter of this year was also contracted by only a modest sort of 2%. But if you add the two quarters together, that means that we are now officially in a recession in the country. So obviously that's not great news. There's various different views in terms of what is going to be happening in the next 6 months, or the third and the fourth quarter of the year. And I guess it's anyone's guess really of how that's going to unfold. So of course, with COVID still around very much, so there's no vaccine, not that we know of anyway. Kids are going back to school, and the government's encouraging a lot of people to go back to work as per normal from, I guess, this week and next week. So who knows how that's going to impact the number of cases, what the actual implication that will be. So it's all very much up in the air at the moment. So obviously more people are starting to leave their homes and get on public transport, see how that's going to impact. So I think the next few weeks will be quite telling. So we'll see what happens from there. And of course you have the furlough scheme, which the UK government put into place as well. So it was 80% of the wages of the employees was covered by the government from the start. I think that decreased to 60% in August, and it's all going to be stopped in October. Now, I know a lot of large employers have already either started laying people off or going to lay people off, restructuring, etc. So there's a lot of changes coming. So obviously that's going to have a massive impact on the economy as well. And again, nobody knows how big that impact will be. Could be big, maybe not so big. There's lots of various views on that as well. And of course, there's one thing that everyone seems to forget about at this point, is we still have something called Brexit. Now, Brexit is, I think it's meant to happen by the end of this year. Now, again, who knows how that's going to sort of pan out. Various views on that as well. So there's so many variables out in the economy at the moment that it's almost a bit of a head spin. You're trying to sort of go, is this going to be, that's going to be good? Is that going to be good? Or is that going to be bad? Is that going to be bad? So it's almost like you really need a crystal ball to know exactly how it's going to work. But I think it's more bad news than good news, I'm afraid, from what I can see. And we are currently experiencing a bit of a bubble in the property market. So all that pent-up demand that we spoke about earlier from the lockdown period, everyone's trying to sort of buy or move. It'd be interesting to see all these negative things like the recession is going to start to bite, the furlough scheme ending, that's going to start to bite. So all those things, I wonder if that's going to burst the bubble in about 3 or 4 months' time. So again, I don't know exactly when, but I have a feeling that's sort of towards the back end of the year or early next year. I think we are likely to see a bit of a drop in terms of activity, definitely, but it's likely to be even some price drops as well. So I don't know if that's the view that you've got, Peter, but that's kind of how I make things out as I see them. So
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It's there are a lot of things out there, and I'm saying do not panic, but because you always need to when a bet coming, don't forget when bad things coming, there is always opportunity as well. You just need to find what the opportunities are, and you need to be very calm and cool head and make your decisions and see where are the opportunities laid, and you just need to do your business and your things accordingly. Most of the things I've seen is absolutely the same, like yourself. More bad news than good news. A lot of people say if it's too many bad news, then you're gonna have a lot of opportunities as well. But yes, generally speaking, the Brexit as well, and the end of the furlough scheme, and all these things is not going to go too well for the people, and it's going to be definitely crush more the economy and the people as well. There's always going to be good things as well, as I mentioned, and I can't stress enough. So I wouldn't panic too much, but definitely we're going to need to see what's going to happen. We're going to need to analyze the market. Definitely it's not going to last forever when people buying houses like now, because I'm experiencing the same thing. Very, very hard to find below market value properties. Very, very hard to find them. We do source them on different ways, and it's really, really hard. But obviously it's not going to last forever. Definitely not. So we just need to be ready when things dropped. But if you're not going to be prepared for the time there's things dropping, like a price dropping or anything like that, then you're not going to be able to take the good deals either. So that's why you need to be calm and then cool ahead and analyze the market, looking the market, and preparing where the opportunity is going to come, and when they're coming, you're going to be prepared and you're going to see the opportunities, because most of the people don't see the opportunities because they don't not prepared. They just don't do the homework, so they're not going to see. That's the main thing we can do. And in point of service accommodation point of view, I definitely gonna have maybe some decreasing in bookings at the end of the year. But at the moment, all I can see, maybe it's thanks to our marketing as well. We get a lot of bookings, so we're doing okay. And we always increasing our budget as well. Every month we're spending more and more on marketing. That's one of the things I learned, and I will always advise to people: as you're making more, you're spending more on marketing. It's up to you. You want to spend 10% of the revenue, 15%, 20%, whichever people say. I'm spending much more on that. But you need to spend on marketing, because without marketing, then there is no way around. There is no chance to do any business.
Yeah, agreed. One thing I want to show you, I've got a couple of comments here. Thanks very much for Conrad and Muzzy to comment. So Conrad has said good morning. So I think he's got something wrong with his watch, but we'll fix that for
maybe
you.
Maybe in a different part of the world, maybe.
Conrad has traveled to Australia and he's tuning in from Australia. So he's saying good morning to us. Thanks, Conrad.
That's
good. And Muzzy has already asked him to get himself a new clock. So it's good to see some humor going around. So Muzzy and Conrad are supporting and sharing the humor with us. Thanks, guys. So I think this is a quick overview of what we've seen over the last few months, and perhaps what is going to happen. So if there's anyone else who's got a different view, feel free to share, guys. I'm more than happy to see what you guys think, and just stick it into the comments and see if we can share it with other people as well. But in terms of today, I think we are more or less done, Peter, unless you got something else. But we got a bit of an announcement for next week. Would you like to do the honors, Peter?
Yeah, I just want to announce someone, the special guest, Richard Majewski. He's a really an expert in service accommodation, especially in the corporate part. But I think he's really experienced in any hotel or service accommodation sector. So I'm really excited to announce him, and I think I made a post as well, announcement into a group. He's going to talk about. I'm not going to tell what I'm going to ask from him, but we definitely, guys, if you want to know about who are the guys, who are the people you need to ask questions, and listen a bit less for people who advertise themselves like experts sometimes and gurus. So if you want to know from someone real experience, what about and how is going on with the bookings regarding service accommodation, and how is doing the service accommodation market at the moment, when we can expect the market is coming back for full normal, and also how is that possible? To some people claim they have 100% occupancy, direct bookings and corporate bookings. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But definitely, I'm gonna ask a few questions. So as always, you can hear the honest answers and the good content from us.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I think it's great to have people on our show. It's good to we had quite a few people already interviewed. So we had Conrad last time, and we've had people like Laura Muse, for example, Darren Burrows sharing the experiences. So we've got Richard next week. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be very very informative about the service accommodation and hotel industry. So I think, given that we've got a bit of a staycation buzz going on in the country, people don't necessarily want to go abroad. And of course, what you just talked about in terms of what happened in the last few months from an essay point of view, I think it'd be really interesting. So I'm personally very much looking forward to it. So it'd be great to have Richard next week. So it's Tuesday next week, 7:30. So come and join us and hear from Richard and see what he has to say. So it'd be great.
Definitely.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. We shall see you and Peter, yourself, and everybody else next week. Cheers, guys.
See you next week.
Cheers. Bye.